Yep, go ahead and do roll call then.
Ferry.
Here.
Brooks. Frizalone.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Markham.
Here.
Moran.
Present.
Mustis.
Here.
Ogalla. Summers. Trainier. And Winfrey, you do have a quorum. Thank you. Ms. Dollinger, would you lead us in the pledge, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. 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 Okay, we need an approval of minutes from the Will County Executive Committee meeting on November 1st.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Executive Committee minutes from November, also from November 1st.
Motion.
Any opposed? Or all in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
No opposed, okay. The Executive Committee from November 8th.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Executive Committee from November 8th.
Executive session.
Executive session, I'm sorry.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Should be 4 sets of meetings, okay. I don't show any old business, so we'll start with the new business, discussion of the administrative adjudication fees, and I believe Rick Todd is here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to thank the Will County Board for having me up here to speak on behalf of the Will County Sheriff's Office. Just real quick, I'm going to make this as abbreviated as possible. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll start again. This is Rick Todd from the Will County Sheriff's Office. I'm a sergeant of records, and I'm also the ordinance liaison for the department. I'm going to make this as abbreviated as possible, and I'd like to thank you guys for having me up here to speak. I also brought Dan McDonald from MCSI. They're a collection recovery agency that works exclusively with government agencies, municipal and county, state government agencies. We put together a small packet, PowerPoint packet. So essentially what I'm here about is our ordinance system that we currently have in place is not fulfilling the end of the fee and fine collections. So when we're going through the system and looking at our uncollected portions, it's over $500,000 at this point that we've uncollected. So what I'm trying to do is implement a system to make this system 100%. So right now it's not completely 100% fulfilling system. So some people do pay, some people don't. Some people show up to ordinance, some ordinance adjudication, some don't. So we're spending money and we're making an investment to enforce these ordinances, and we're trying the best we can to enforce them, but there's no fee collection system in place right now aside from or after adjudication. So that's what we're trying to do, is implement a system where we can go into at no cost currently and try to collect on past due fees and then future fees as well. Are there any questions? Or if you have any later?
We have a question here. Jackie?
Push your speaker.
Our thing isn't working.
Have we had multiple companies come before the committee, or is it just this one company because we're already using them? I can't remember.
Well,
It's been a
we're
while.
not using MCSI. MCSI has two components. They have MSI, which is the software originating ordinance system for false alarms and other county ordinances. And then they also have a collections and recovery system that works with their software, but also from our standpoint, it's compatible. We can move it out of our software into them for collections, and they collect in a couple different ways. They collect via their staff, who will skip trace, call people. They're not over-aggressive or anything of that nature, from what I'm finding out. And then they also use the government IOC, the controller system for collection. And the fees related to those are two different fees. One's at 30% if they collect it, one, if it comes from the controller, it's 14%, if it moves that far. So essentially, we have no system in place now. Our current ordinance software doesn't have a system that we can utilize for fee enforcement. So some people are paying, like I said, and some people aren't. And then some people keep on accumulating these fees into the thousands even.
Well, I know the clerk's office, circuit clerk, uses a company. It's not this one.
Yeah, they use Harris and Harris.
Harris, and I don't know, I haven't been on the legislative committee since shortly after the administrative ordinance, whatever, was just passed, so I didn't know how things ended up with the collection of fees, and I didn't know if we had some sort of bidding process, and we picked, a company from that, or exactly how things came together. So that's my question. I mean, are we getting the best deal with this company in terms of the percentage of the revenue that we get?
Well, there are components of the county that currently do engage with MCSI in the collection system.
Okay.
I think it's in the Will County Health Department. Yes. They use their collection system, and their recovery rate is going up exponentially.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I guess the question I have, and I suppose it really, and maybe it doesn't matter what agency does the collection or what branch of county government does the collection. I just think it's unusual that the sheriff's department would be responsible for the collection. So I guess I'm asking is what does adjudication ordinance say? I mean, I mean, who's really responsible? I understand the sheriff's office may say, well, we'll take the responsibility for collections, but I want to make sure that that's the right unit of county government to actually.
I'd clarify that.
What does the statute
that'd be great.
require?
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's kind of parceled out, because some ordinances are for administrative tows, which we collect
Yeah.
at our office
Right.
on Laramie Road. They can come in and pay false alarm cards here, or they can pay here at the executive's office. So collection entities and all of our staff have tills that interact with the software. And the software is cumbersome, it takes a little bit longer, but we're trying to work on getting up to speed with some new software. So aside from that, the executive branch actually collects. All the money goes, even if we collect it in our office, it comes back to here.
Yeah, well, I guess that's my point, and that's what I was thinking. If it's the responsibility of the executive branch, Nick, I'm sure you're out there somewhere. There you are. Okay, so Nick, my question to you would be, have you been engaged, has executive's office been engaged in this? Is this the way you'd like to go forward with collections? Because I believe that the ordinance says the executive branch of government is responsible for running the adjudication, even if it doesn't specifically say you're due to collection. So I just want to make sure that the right unit of government is involved. That's all.
Jennifer Sharp's going to comment.
Just to say, yes, we have all been working together on this, and our office is.
Press the button, Jennifer.
Press the button, Jeff.
Press the button up there.
Our office is.
Turn yours on.
I'll turn
Up
mine
at the top.
Okay. Very good.
It'll get red when it's on.
There you go.
Our office is on board with it, and yes, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, we did have Harris and Harris come in and talk to the committee and executive committee, and then the software that we are using now, they needed to do updates. We were having a hard time getting the name base. There was just things, and it slipped by. Well, then I started talking to Rick, and we did a total, and it was over like $500,000.
I have no problem with MSI. I just want to make it clear, even if the sheriff's department is actually doing the collection, it's the executive branch that's responsible. Now, if the executive branch says, well, the sheriff set up for this, and let's just go through them, and everybody's fine with it, I don't have a problem with any. I don't have a problem with any of it. I just want you to say, well, let's make sure we know who's actually responsible, and that those people are taking the responsibility for the collection, which is the executive branch of government, even if you're using the sheriff's department. So the MSI contract then would be with the executive branch of government, not the sheriff's department.
Correct.
Okay. Nick, is that how you understand it all to be? You should
We
have a
work-
conversation.
And we work we work closely with finance as
Right.
well, and we, collaboratively, we work together on this, and
So I guess what I'm saying is MSI would be contracted with the executive branch of government, not necessarily the sheriff's department, even if the sheriff's department is running the program on behalf of the executive's office.
So
Does that
then
make,
for
does that
clarity-
make sense?
For the clarity, then, the process is the executive's office sets out the company that's going to do the collection, and the sheriff's department is doing the enforcement, is what the process is. Is that what I hear you saying?
yes.
Yes.
And we do have,
clear for everybody?
we have land use and animal control. Health department really doesn't use our system, but there is quite a bit of fees outstanding as well in the land use department. And so this would all, this would be, we would all work together with, all of these departments.
I assume more clarification.
Yeah. Jackie?
And for me, I just want to know that we're using the most cost-effective company. In other words, we're getting the lion's share back, and it's not costing us a lot of money in terms of software upgrades or whatever we needed to do, and that we're getting an efficient system. That's what I care about.
There's no money at all exchanged until, so they will go out and start with dunning letters, and then, start their process. And we will not have to pay anything until they start collecting.
Right, but we lose money somewhere along the line, because that's how you pay for their service. Like, if they owe 100, we only maybe get $60.
That's a question you need to ask.
That's my
In
question.
this contract, because they can add additional fee
Right.
onto the debtor.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck.
Well,
I get we're not
The
paying.
question
Ask
is,
the
what is the
question.
rate of
Ask
return
the question.
on the dollars collected?
Ask the question directly.
Jennifer?
No, just ask the question
I
directly.
just
We-
did. Jennifer?
And I'll let Dan speak on that, and if you'd like to ask him questions, he'll explain how his company works, and we'll let him speak now, and then if you want to ask him questions.
Good morning. My name is Dan McDonald. I represent MCSI and MSI. It's two separate companies. MSI is software, MCSI is collection. So we're talking about the collection process right now. So Jennifer's comment was correct. It doesn't cost anything because we don't get paid, and you don't get paid until we collect something. And there's no question about it that if we got a ticket for $100, we're proposing 30% commission. We may not be the cheapest rate. And we found that out. And when we are doing work for the Will County, the environmental division of the Will County Health Department. And at the time, I think they had, I don't remember the name of the company, but I think their rate was a little bit less. But they were getting 1.5% recovery. We are averaging into the mid-20s with just our efforts. And then if you're using the IOC local debt recovery program, those numbers can approach the 40s and 50% range. So rate, even though I agree with you, it's important, it shouldn't be your guiding factor, because you can get a company that will collect 2% for you, and if you're getting, 78% of that, and we're getting you 70 of, a greater percentage, much greater percentage, the numbers are going to weigh out much better. There's also opportunities, municipalities, and we represent 90 municipalities or 89 municipalities, and we already do work with Will County. Municipalities, and I can check this out to make sure it's available also for counties, they can add the cost of collections in. So basically, it becomes an absolutely no-cost option where a $100 ticket, when that happens, we ask you to add 35%. So our net is 25.93. Add 35%. That's our commission. When we collect in full $100 comes back. You would not start that way, because your ordinance there's no ordinance in place to my knowledge. If there is, great. But if you adopt an ordinance to basically say we're going to add the cost of collections, when you're participating in the IOC local debt recovery program, your notices need to say that. So every hearing notice and every final determination has to spell that out, or they would potentially freeze you out of the program. So I say, if you decide today we go forward, everything prior to, we can collect at a standard percentage. Going forward, then, evaluate the benefits of adding the cost of collections.
Don?
This is just on the agenda for discussion, not to buy into this program. I'm not turned on.
Not turned on.
Yeah, yeah.
It's on the agenda for discussion. And I may look like an idiot, but what I really don't like is when I get a presentation and put in front of me that's got 100 acronyms in it. And we're not all in law enforcement or whatever. We're not all in collections departments. And there's no explanation for what a lot of the acronyms IOC.
I apologize.
NCOA.
Right, so I mean, there's just a ton of acronyms in here that is meaningless to me to start with. Second, we're going to discuss this here today, and I guess we are, but doesn't this belong in some committee to have some closer examination of this?
It could come to a
it needs to go. I mean, there's some talk, there's talking here about electronic.
Doesn't have to.
When I sat on the Integrated Justice Committee, there was talk about electronic ticketing. At that time, they were looking at a program at the University of Oklahoma. It seems like there's a lot of things in here we don't know about as board members, especially a lot of new board members. If I don't know, I'm sure they don't know.
Maybe we'll do Nick first, he may be
And it seems like an awful lot of trying to grasp. Just from the stuff that you're telling us, I'm not grasping it all, and I'm pretty sure that most of the people in the room aren't grasping it. It deserves a better discussion in a committee someplace where it can be closer examined.
Understood.
And we certainly have the opportunity to move it to a committee. Mike's had his mic on for a long time, so you had a question, then Nick.
Yeah, it was kind of a couple of things. The first thing I was trying to figure out when you say collection rate 30%, I thought you meant that's what your collection rate of recovery is, but you're saying that's your commission is 30%. And it says that the one of our departments increased to about 50% recovery. What is our recovery percentage right now? Zero.
Zero?
We're getting nothing? Nothing. You don't have an agency working on your tickets from your adjudication system.
No, but I mean, we have to get some money in when we do a ticket, right?
Money, I wouldn't know that. That would be someone coming from somebody else.
Right, yeah, that's not only a question for you, it's a question maybe for Rick.
Yes.
We're getting something back.
When we have the adjudication and we send out notices and they appear and they're found liable, they do pay, some do pay here, they don't have to, some pay here. Some go ahead and mail in their fees or fines if they can.
Right.
Some mail in less, we'll negotiate with some people based
Okay.
on specific circumstances.
So what's
there's
that
some-
rate?
There's some recovery, yes, from the initial process of issuing the ordinance to then. But after they're found liable, the issue is, and they don't pay at the adjudication, then they just don't pay.
But we need to know what our recovery rate is now. I mean, if it was, even if there was $500,000 sitting out there, if our recovery rate was 75%, then maybe the $500,000 wouldn't be bad. If our recovery rate is 2%, there's $500,000 out there, then.
And there's another segment of this to look at. A recovery rate on administrative tows is going to be very high because they have to come get their car.
Right.
So that's going to skew the numbers. Anything aside from that.
All right, well, if you
it's gonna
break that
It's
up.
going to be a minimal amount. I don't know, I haven't quantified an exact number yet, but I can look into that further for you.
Yeah, we need to do that
It
before
might
we
be
do
helpful
more.
for
And the
us.
other,
Go ahead.
the other question was to Mary. I thought we did an ordinance where we could allow a fee on our collections when we were talking about the clerks or.
I don't think it would apply to
There
this.
is
Turn mine off.
ordinance for circuit court. There's a specific statute that allows you to add fees on top of the fees and fines entered by the court. And that's, under that, the authority of that statute is where we hired Harris and Harris. And Harris and Harris was hired by the state's attorney in the circuit court. So I don't think you passed an ordinance because that's under the authority of their, well, it's under the authority of the elected officials to enter into that agreement without the approval of county board. But I don't know that we have an ordinance, and I don't know
From
if
the
we have
board.
the authority to add additional collection
We're
costs
different
on.
from municipalities.
You're not a home rule authority, and I would
Right.
have to look at the statutes to see if there is anything, and I'm not sure that there is, quite frankly.
Okay, Nick?
Just to be sensitive to some of the questions that have been raised, I mean, this was a discussion, but we have a number of new board members, and the discussion about Harris and Harris was a number of years ago. It may be useful to have this in a formal committee and review some of the history with that issue. It's not always apples to apples, obviously, but we can get, I think, collectively what we're collecting from the administrative adjudication program now, and what are alternative options, too, on this, because there are a number of options. And one thing I do recall from Harris and Harris was we talked to a couple people about collections just generally, but you had to have a certain amount of funds and outstanding collections before it really made sense. I mean, in the circuit clerk and the court system, we had millions of dollars, I think, in unpaid things over many years, and we kind of boxed off a certain time frame and went after those. And that's, I think, why administrative adjudication, we didn't initially jump in and say, let's go to collections right away, because it was a new process. And it also is how aggressively do you want to pursue the collections, because obviously, if people are fined, they should pay the fine. Otherwise, there's no reason to adhere to what you're being fined for, if you're never going to be punished. But at the same point, administrative adjudication, some of those fines are for more basic things, and I think as a policy, the board may want to look at how aggressively, or at least have a discussion with the current board, because attitudes may have changed. But to Don's point, and I think to Jack's point, both procurement and just the details of where we're at and what we're trying to accomplish, I think would be better spent in a committee where we can get all the players involved and make sure that all the staff in the various offices are aware of what this looks like. So.
Okay.
So we're open to that, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And then to that point, because we do have did you have a question, Gloria?
I do.
Yes.
I just was curious, with any kind of contract like that, is there a length? Is it a year-to-year? Is it a 3-year contract? When we sign something like this?
Typically, the contracts are 36 months.
Steve?
Yeah, I don't know if I heard right or not, but no bid was put out to see other companies that could collect money, because there's a lot of private companies that collect money. So I mean, I don't know that this is the best, no offense to what you guys got here, but, we really should have some other pricing from other companies, because 30% seems like a high amount of money to me, for recovery. And if we did it in-house, if you send somebody a letter and say, you didn't pay, we want your money, and it comes from the government, so to speak, you'll get a whole bunch of people that'll pay just from the first letter. That only costs you 50 cents for the stamp and whatever it costs to generate the letter, which could be the same letter over and over and over again. So, I mean, there's a lot more involved in my mind than what we're talking about here, just in the pricing.
Judy?
I was just wondering, aside from the fee for the 36-month contract, is there an additional fee for that length of time, or is that just the fee?
No, it's 30% if we collect, and it's 14% if it's paid through the local debt recovery program.
Okay, sure. What's to say?
Mike?
I guess I have a couple comments and a couple questions. We're not talking about the people who are willing to pay their fines. What's the recovery rate? What their recovery rate is, what's the difference? They're willing to pay. These are the people that get a fine and don't pay it. We're getting 30% of zero right now, right? And that's zero. So this is for the people who are not willing to pay the fine. So what punishment are we giving them if we're not going after them to get those fines? We're getting zero from them now, and we're $500,000 in debt to them. So what is the difference on what we get from people who are willing to pay their fines? It has no bearing on this particular topic. These are people who don't want to pay their fines, who we want to go after.
Okay.
If you don't want us to go after them, we don't have to.
I think I'm going to answer and ask the same question as Mike. I don't think it was the percentage of recovery rate. We were interested in, of the administrative fines that are issued, what percentage of people are paying now and what percentage are not paying.
But does that have a relevancy on
Correct.
the people who don't pay?
No.
It has no relevancy on the people
I
who
think-
don't pay.
And both of you are right on that. That's not the question. It sounds like from the amount of comments that are coming out that we would be better served to have a committee of the whole addressing just this issue so that people can discuss in depth what percentage of people are actually paying their fines voluntarily, what that universe looks like of people who don't pay, so that we know how many we're going after. And I'm guessing from what you're saying, Mike, that's a fairly large number, and there's a lot of dollars at stake there that we could use as a county, so we want to try and capture those. We also want to look at what makes the best sense in terms of the companies that go after those people. So I think all things need to be considered, and we should consider a committee of the whole. We have a number of newer people who may not be clear on what our current process is, what all the nuances are, so we want to include them as well. So let's plan to do that. Maybe we could do at the January meeting, at the January Executive Committee, the second one, that would be the January 10th meeting, have a committee of the whole just for this purpose, and we could then get the information about what that universe looks like, so that people have a better understanding of what we're trying to gain, what we're trying to collect, and then the need to go after that.
Right,
If
'cause if
that's
we're-
revenues lost to the
If
county,
we're
we
writing
need
these
to recover
ordinance
those.
tickets and we're not, it's a waste of our time and a waste of our money.
Right, because
if
we're
people
not
ain't
collecting
paying
on
the
them, and that's manpower wasted. We're not getting the money in, that's potential revenue for us. People have no fear of punishment on that. Steve, you had another
Yes,
question?
I agree 100% with you, go to committee of whole, but I'd like to see included in it the cost of us doing it in-house also.
And certainly, there would be a cost in-house. Now, what you might want to consider, Steve, is that in order for us to do it in-house, that means somebody dedicated to that process, which means increased staffing, overhead costs. So that's something you may want to think about. Thank you. Ray?
I was just going to say,
Ray?
I understood that.
Okay.
Ray?
So, as many of you know, I own my own business, and collections is just a part of owning a business. There are two buckets. There's the people that pay, and there's the people that don't pay. For the people that pay, I have to agree with the sheriff. I mean, we don't have to worry about that. That's just money coming in. I don't care about the percentage. What I'm worried about is the $500,000 that's not coming in.
Right.
To speak to the percentage, the 30%, when I sell items, some of the ticket items that I may go out for collection may be $30,000, $40,000 that people owe me. You're not going to pay 30% on that. But when you have a $100 ticket, I know it sounds like a lot because it's 30%, but there's a lot of work that goes involved into it. I don't really think that that's that far out of line, because I don't believe many of these tickets are above that threshold. I do agree with the fact that there's a stigma out there that if you don't want to pay the county, you just don't have to, and nothing happens.
Right.
That's the wrong stigma
That's not the
message that we need to be putting out there. And for those people, because then the good people that do wind up paying, they're going to say, well, why do I have to pay if they don't pay? So I think moving forward, I think it is something we need to look at. I think it's definitely worthwhile. But my follow-up question was, where's the money? What fund would the money actually go into once it is collected? Because I know you're doing, you do tickets for land use, for burning, for,
For multiple funds.
Not the actual land, some go into, administrative totals go into.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Most of it goes in general fund.
So would it be in general fund or at the sheriff's station? Okay.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I'm all for going after, just like Ray's saying, but we do have to look at the percentages and the numbers and compare to other people. We're talking about $500,000. If the recovery rate's only 40% and we lose 30% in commission, now we're down to $140. So it's got to make sense from a company that's going to bring us, $500,000 looks great, we're not going to get that. If we're only getting 50%, we're not going to get that, because then we lose another piece, right?
Yeah. And that would
If
be,
you get all 500,000, 30%, you get 350.
You don't pay them a penny.
If they got all 500, but they're saying their return is about 50% of the people they're going after. So if you go after the 500,000, they're only getting 250. Now you lose the 30% of that, you're down to 140.
okay, so this would be
Or 170.
another
So-
example of why we need a committee of the whole.
Understand.
Because there are a number of issues
It's better
still
than the
out
zero you're
there.
getting now.
Number of issues still out there that need to be sorted out in a committee of the whole. We are hearing all the committees through this committee today, so we need to move those along. And certainly, there are a number of questions that have not been answered. It is not clear, apparently, to the people gathered here, of how the percentages will work, what's collected, who gets what we're paying, whether we get all of what's collected or portions of it. And those things need to be addressed in the committee of the whole.
Please, can I say something?
Question.
This is really, my question is really for you, Mary. obviously, we're going to need another meeting, and there'll be a broader discussion. Yeah, if you will, I'd like to see all remedies that are available to the county. You know, I mean, can we give them a lien? Is there other enforcement activities or remedies that would be available to us that we could include in an ordinance that would maybe give us a little bit more teeth or get a little bit more attention from folks? You know, for example, you know, if you owe money in child support, they can suspend your driver's license or whatever. Or they can, you got an income tax return, they just take the money. You know, those are remedies that are available for those programs, right? I'd like to see if we have any other remedies just besides going to collection. Even going to collection, you know, for example, at the township, I cut grass, right, for people who won't cut it. And we put a lien on their property. Eventually, they pay it, because eventually they go sell that property. If we have some of those remedies, I'd like to see everything that's available so the county board can make a good, educated, informed decision. So that's all I want to say, Denise.
Thank you. Okay. So Committee of the Whole, January 10th, for the sheriff. Are you clear what we're asking to have come forward at that time? And for Rick, what we need in order to be able to have a broader discussion and get some help for you? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Land use staff is here to present on those cases if you need them to.
Okay. Let me get my glass. I can't see what the thing is. Okay, we have next up, we have an ordinance amending the Will County zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th as amended for zoning map. It's case ZC 18071. Thomas Planbeck, I'm guessing, and Maria Miniv. Does the land use need to say anything about it? Who's coming up?
I'm assuming this is
It's Marguerite. And there you go.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chairwoman Winfrey. I would like to briefly summarize this zoning case, ZC 18071, before I would be able to take any questions the committee might have.
Thank you.
ZC 18071 takes place in New Lenox Township. The property is located at 208 Redwood Avenue, which is south of the I-355, I-80 interchange, and just north of Francis Road and east of Cedar Road. It is the southeast corner of Cooper Street and Redwood Avenue. The property is improved with a single-family residence, detached garage, a gravel driveway running west to Cooper Street, and a concrete driveway running north to Redwood Avenue. There are no identified wetlands or floodplains located on the subject parcel. The property is currently consolidated lots 1 and 2 within the Monterey subdivision, which was platted in 1957. The Monterey subdivision was originally zoned R2, but rezoned to R3 in 1978. However, the lots were smaller than the requirements for the R3 district and would be deemed legal nonconforming in today's standards. The applicant purchased lots 1 and 2 in 2011, and in 2012, the applicant consolidated lots 1 and 2 into a single conforming R3 parcel. The applicant wishes to undo this consolidation by dividing the existing lot back into the configuration of Lot 1 and Lot 2. Lot 1 would be the location of a new single-family home, and Lot 2 would contain the existing residence. In order for the division to create the 2 legal conforming lots that zoning requires, the current parcel needs to be rezoned to R5 in order to meet the lot frontage and lot size standards within the zoning district and the zoning ordinance. The R5 district requires lots to be no smaller than 10,000 square feet with 70 feet of lot frontage. Upon division, both lots would meet these standards. Staff received comments from the Will County Health Department stating they have no objection if an appropriately designed and sized private sewage disposal system and well can be installed. And the applicant is working with the health department to get approval of the septic system and well access for Lot 1. The Village of New Lenox Board voted not to object to the proposed rezoning to R5, and the subject property is within the village's facility planning area and is shown to be residential within the Village of New Lenox Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommended approval, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to approve the map amendment from R3 to R5, and there were no objections or comments. And I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions? Jim?
You know, actually, I'm going to ask a question that's more informational to everybody. You mentioned that in 1978, it was rezoned. In 1978, was that the year that the county rezoned the entire county?
Yes.
And it wasn't done by participants, it was done by property owners. It was done by the county who reapplied new zoning on properties, right? So I think that's just informational, so people know that in 1978, the county rezoned
Everything.
the entire county. And it was not something that was willingly by the property owners. You know, the only other comment I would make is, and I do know we have some pretty good cavitat type systems or mechanical systems to handle sewage. But you know, 10,000 square foot lots are pretty small for septic systems. And you know, I don't think it would be unreasonable to put a condition that if sewer and water from New Lenox becomes readily available, you know, which means they don't have to run sewer and water lines 1,000 feet, you know, that they would hook into that system. You know, I feel just a little uncomfortable with septic systems on small lots, that's all. Have experience there, generally does not turn out well. And even on mechanical systems, there's a discharge of water, which sometimes creates creates problems, especially in the wintertime, with ice damming and so forth. That's it.
Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I had a question. I read in the packet that that this was an area, was it New Lenox was looking at potentially absorbing as part of the municipality at some point, to Jim's point, because of water and sewer would become available out there. Is that something we can mandate? I mean, because we could put a condition, but if we put a condition just on this lot, how does that affect the rest of them in the subdivision? Because I looked at the plat, I've never been on land use, I'm going to be on it this session, so, but a lot of the other lots seem to be that same size, so I didn't have any problems with that, and I did kind of agree with you that 17-foot frontage on whatever side that is on the Cooper Street did seem kind of small, because I live in a community where it seemed like there was a lot of space down the roads when they first built those houses, as now these 2-lane roads are now 4-lane plus a turn lane. There is no space anymore. So I agreed that the 17 feet didn't seem right and that they should turn the house or redesign the architecture of the home. But can we just put that stipulation on just one lot, given that there's a whole subdivision there?
First of all, Mary?
So, in this particular case, the variance has already been approved by PZC. So the only thing that's going to county board is the map amendment, and you do not have the authority to condition a map amendment.
Okay, that answers that.
Okay.
I can point out that this subject property is within roughly 500 feet of a water main line running along Francis Road. That is the Village of New Lenox. And then there's a sewer line running along Cedar Road that's approximately a third of a mile away from the subject property. So it could be in the future, at some point when they get the money to extend services, they'll be able to.
They did. They indicated that in here, that you know, that was kind of the intent of the municipality, that they would be there eventually.
Okay. Other questions? Do you have another one?
I mean, on the sewer and water, the health department has review. And the health department, I believe, has the authority to say, you know, you're close enough to central sewer and water, or it's economical enough. I don't know exactly the criteria they use. But the health department, can they, Mary, tell them they want them to hook in the sewer and water, or say the configuration for mechanical systems won't work here. I guess what I'm saying is the health department can weigh in on this and maybe push it one way or the other.
They can, I think they've already commented, am I correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
The health department did comment. As long as an appropriately sized system is available, they will approve the building permit process. So the permit for the single-family residential has not been submitted based on the rezoning request.
They haven't approved a system yet,
That is correct.
is my point. If there's a system that doesn't work,
Well, they have to approve it, though.
correct. So there's still something there.
Yeah, there's something to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Judy?
So just to clarify everything, please explain, because a lot of new people are late.
Okay.
So please explain the differences to why they're going from 2 non-conforming R3 to 1 R5. Can you explain that? And then I have a second question.
Okay. Basically, it would be rezoning both parcels, so the current parcel, which is a conforming R3. The R3 lots are generally 20,000 square feet in size. R5 is 10,000 square feet. So with the parcel being divided back into lots 1 and 2 within the subdivision, both lots would be around 11,000 square feet.
And that's very similar to the other one.
Yes, that's similar to what the Monterey subdivision, all 14 lots within that subdivision.
My question is, why would we, everyone in that subdivision right now, those houses are
Mhm.
all except this is one empty lot. So why do we want to make these people have a different type of responsibility than the rest of them? I mean, I think it's only fair for the same type of things to be applied to these departments from the rest of the neighbors. That's just the right.
Other questions? Steve?
Yeah, I'm on land use too. Welcome. You know, when I heard Jim say that the county rezoned in 1978 and made it 1, that wasn't the people's problem. That was the county did that. And I'm sure that was a hardship to the people.
The owner made it one.
I thought you said that they reclassified it and they took the 2 lots away and made it 1.
No.
They just reclassified the zone. They didn't change the lots.
Oh, they didn't change,
They existed.
so it was the people that asked to be changed to 1 lot.
That is
It was
correct.
1 lot, now they're asking to subdivide.
Okay, I got it mixed up.
Okay. Other questions?
No, never mind.
Ray?
I was just going to say, in 1957, when this was plotted, there was the 2 lots. You know, to me, it's out of characteristic for the neighborhood. It is in my district. I understand that area very well. If you change it, it's going to look like, or, you know, a square peg in a round hole. So to put it back to its original state, I think is the best thing to do. And the other thing I would say is that, you know, it's because of the county's changing of the zoning districts and what's required in there that this is even coming up, or it would just be a split. So I believe it's a good thing, and I believe we should move forward with it.
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
Wait. The motion is to approve the staff recommendation.
Yes.
And the second was?
Second by Jackie.
Jackie. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay. The next case, Jessica will be coming up. It's ZC 18072.
Good morning, everyone. So just like Margie did, I'm just going to give a little details on this case. It takes place in Lockport Township. The applicant and owner is Antonio Alberico II. Mr. Alberico is requesting a map amendment from A1 to R3 in order to develop a currently vacant lot into a residence. So he would like to build a home on it. It's currently vacant and it's 0.73 acres and zoned A1. So for those of the county board members that don't know, an A1 zone lot is generally 10 acres with 300 feet of frontage, so substantially bigger than this existing lot. What looks to be the case, this is kind of a
leftover piece that kept its zoning. In the 1978 rezoning or comprehensive rezoning of the county, for whatever reason, a lot of the other lots were rezoned. This one was kind of left, and it was never used for agricultural purposes. The homes in that area really primarily date from the 1950s and 1960s. Prior to that, you can see in historic aerials that it was agricultural at some point. So it was farmed at some point many, many years ago. Even so, if the applicant did decide, you know, I would like to keep it A1, maybe go through a different option, the current parcel wouldn't even be able to meet setbacks in order to build a home on the property. So really from what makes sense from that standpoint, the entire area is residential. R3 is already existing in that area. The parcel as an A1 parcel, it's impractical to keep it that way. So this is the logical way to rezone it to an appropriate zoning district, appropriate uses within the area, and in order for that individual to build a house that would meet setbacks. And we didn't receive any sort of comments or objections. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval last week's meeting. And it does conform with the Land Resource Management Plan and really promotes development of an otherwise impractical parcel. And I'll take any questions that you may have.
Are there any? No? It seems...
Did you have?
Second, okay, and then discussion. Did you have a question?
I make a comment, anytime we can get rid of these small A1 parcels, I'm all for it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Any others? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we have a signature acknowledgement for the county treasurer. This is a standard form. Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Transferring appropriations within various county budgets. All those in favor? Okay, did you need to say something, Rashawn? Okay.
Well, she's coming up. Can we do these out of order? Jeff just wants to approve them.
Just wanted to comment. Good morning. I know we have a few new board members, but this is a routine request. After the fiscal year has closed out, or year-end has closed out, we look to see where we can clean up kind of within the department budget. So this is the first round of requests that will be coming forth, and this is basically just transferring funds that are available within a department's budget.
Thank you, Rashawn. We already voted and approved, right? Okay. Okay, next we have authorizing temporary loan to the county highway tax fund. Any question?
Actually, just a comment. You know, we do have a lot of new board members, so I do feel we should mention, this is kind of an annual thing we do with the road district, and then they pay us back. So this is something we've done forever.
Right.
So it's a cash flow thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
Thank you. Any questions for anyone about how this works or anything at all? No? Okay. Yes.
It's internal.
Yeah, it's just a switch back and forth between accounts. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, authorizing approval of supplemental professional services agreement for construction engineering services. This is, okay.
Denise? Just for the new people, they just bring this in front of us when we go over a certain dollar amount, right?
Let me see.
That might be a job.
We do this every time?
Yeah. This is.
Because this is just a professional services agreement.
This would be a public works one. Jeff, you're back there. I see you with
Yeah.
your hand up. So would you?
Bring these forward if we have additional services that come to light that need to be done in the project. As this case, some additional services that need to be done.
Oh, they've already done work on this?
This is increasing.
Because it was such a small amount, that's why I thought it was kind of odd.
But it's increasing the contract.
Okay.
What
are the additional services real quick?
Winter shutdown. We're not anticipating winter shutdown, so there will be extra fees for that, as well as the utility plus extra
Another question here, Jim.
Here again, I'm just going to mention that, you know, if anything's over $20,000, they have to come here. Or if there's a change order, it's over a certain percentage of the contract, it has to come back here. Correct, Mary? I forget, what is the percentage? I forget what the percentage of the contract is. Do you know offhand? Yeah, so if the change order exceeds 10% of the contract, then it has to come back to the board. Here again, this is just kind of Denise, a little, just
History.
teaching moment, right? For everybody.
Thank you.
That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, do we get a motion and a second on that?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next one is authorizing approval of professional services agreement for engineering services for the Will County Bridge inspections with Willett Hoffman and Associates.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Then we have authorizing approval of supplemental professional services agreement for design engineering from Hutchison Engineering, and this will be along the same line as the number 7 we're adding to it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, then we have supplemental design engineering under the Illinois Highway Code. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, then we have professional services agreement for design engineering with Globetrotters Engineering for roadway and appurtenant work on Laraway Road. All in favor? Aye. Okay. The next two I'm going to flip. We'll do 13 first, which is actually the grant itself. Authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the County of Will and the Village of Monee for improvements along Monee-Manhattan Road.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And then granting a variance for that proposed fuel center on Manhattan-Monee Road.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Then we have authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental service provider agreement with PACE.
Second.
That's for the Will County Mobility Project. I see Wendy in the back. Would you want to say a few words about the mobility project, just for the people who are new here? You may not have planned on this, but that may be helpful. We have motion and a second, right? Yeah. Okay.
Hello to all the new board members. So I am the mobility manager for senior and disabled transportation for all of Will County. And when we started this program, we subcontracted with PACE to provide the transportation service. Currently, in this program, the Will Ride there are several different dial-a-rides in Will County, different systems of different townships providing service to their residents. In the Will Ride program, we have townships on the eastern side of Will County that are band together and involved in this. So what you're seeing on here is renewing of all the agreements with the townships. It's a yearly thing I have to do.
Okay.
So pretty much, if you have any questions.
Okay. And what Wendy didn't share with you, Wendy Garlick, by the way, is that the Will Ride, pardon? Ish. Garlish, sorry. Yes. Provides opportunities for people who may be disabled or seniors to be able to get around without needing to have private transport. So that's what the project generally encompasses. Okay. Thank you, Wendy. Okay. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Authorizing the county executive to execute intergovernmental agreement or sponsorship participation with Crete Township for the Will. Second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Authorizing the county executive to execute intergovernmental sponsorship participation. This is also for the Will Ride for Frankfort Township. All those in favor? Any opposed? Authorizing the county executive to execute sponsorship for the Will Ride with Monee Township. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Intergovernmental sponsorship for Peatone Township for the Will Ride. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And Washington Township for the intergovernment. Any opposed?
Aye.
All those in favor? Thank you, Don. Yeah, okay. Any opposed? No. Okay, then we have for Will Township. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 21, setting the number of staff sheriff's sworn personnel. Warden Santarelli, I think you were going to say some words.
Second.
Thank you. And now the discussion. We have a motion and a second, so we have Santarelli here. Are there any questions? No? No, okay. Well, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
I just wanted to real quick explain, especially with the new members here. The board did pass this with the budget going back in November. So the money has already been appropriated. This is just a resolution to meet what was already decided in that budget. But also that there's a new study that was done that asked for increased staffing even above these four, and just to make everybody aware that we are going to continue to ask for those more bodies to take on this and cut the overtime in the future even further.
How many?
The study, we haven't seen the actual final results. It was done, and there was some tweaking that needed to be done, and we haven't seen that come back yet. But I think it should be back soon, hopefully, to be able to discuss. I think it may be in the executive's office. I'm not 100% sure of that.
Yeah, it was for more, and I don't remember the exact number. But the key was with the bond reform, we still don't know how this is going to play out. The study was done based on what current issue is. So as the bond reform takes more effect each year, we may shrink the population even more, so that may be a little less relevant. These four additions that we budgeted for will go into the COs. They will start digging away. And as I said last year, our overtime at the jail went down about 50%. Now, that was due to a lot of the bond reform and a lot of good work from the warden, too. So if we take it in baby steps, we'll see how it changes and affects us, and hopefully gets us out of that overtime and comp time situation.
Thank you. Rachel?
When the study is available, will we be able to get copies of that, or given an overview presentation or something to highlight what's in the study?
I would certainly hope so. Maybe a committee of the whole for that as well.
We can. When it's out of the draft and available to us, we can share that with everybody. Go ahead, Jim.
I understand it's a
Within
sheriff.
limits.
It's a sheriff study. You know, he'll share it when the sheriff's department wants to share it. You know, it's not a county board study. So I just want you to understand.
No, this was
Was it our study? Oh, that was our
No,
study?
this is
Oh, okay.
the other.
Excuse me.
Baker
It's our
Tilly.
study. You'll get it as soon as it's
But even if it was the sheriff's, I'm politely asking if we would be able to see that, and if not, then we could request that,
It's usually up to the elected officials preview when they release it. And at some point, they have to release it if it's completed.
particular one, I
Mary could
believe,
probably give you a better answer than I
It's
can.
Baker Tilly, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right,
Correct.
and so that'll become available. Yeah.
Right.
I know you have places to go, he's always in a hurry. Thank you. Okay. Setting the number of assistant state's attorneys. Mary? Mary?
Why the new number? There are several reasons. You know, our caseloads continue to grow and go up, and so there are additional assistants. There have been some new initiatives with regard to gangs and designating assistants to work specifically on gang issues. And then the other is, I am told that one of these is for the Civil Division, which I can speak to, that we have, in the 17 years I have been there, only gotten one more civil assistant, but we have, of course, FOIA, which has become quite an onerous task, and as well, Civil has taken over the office management duties, so we could sorely use some additional assistance in Civil.
Other questions? Mike?
Just comment, this was budgeted in last year's budget.
Right. It is.
The resolution also states that there's no guarantees in funding.
It was not in our budget. We asked for it, but I don't think there were people, there were,
thought we
the
did.
new people, I think, were removed.
Listen,
We're going to let you have 3 more, but we may not pay for it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it yet. I thought we had. Okay, so, yeah. So we had a motion and a second.
Melissa?
Melissa?
I want to make one comment, and Mary, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We increase the number of state's attorneys, we can't guarantee that they go with the civil. That's up to the state's attorney himself. Even though we've bagged and figured, it doesn't always go to civil.
That's true.
That's true.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Adopting the Equal Employment Opportunity Plan for 2018. Second. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? IGA with Plainfield for the 143rd Street Extension. Nick, I think you had something to say on that. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Nick?
Well, if you'd like an explanation, I can give it. And we have Brian Murphy, who's the village administrator from Plainfield. I think this is, I'll give a brief explanation. This is an economic development issue as much as it's an infrastructure issue. Diageo, which is a liquor manufacturer in Plainfield, is looking to expand their facility west of their current plant. This would involve, what this IGA is for is the paying for the construction of a western extension of 143rd from where it terminates now to Ridge Road, and that would be accomplished via the increased taxes that are collected on this new property. 50% of that from Will County is going to be paid to the Village of Plainfield to be our portion of the cost of the road improvement. And it's over a 10-year period. This is different than a tax abatement. We believe it's a positive, innovative approach to this infrastructure improvement and economic development, because unlike a tax abatement, which just goes to the company and they get the value, but the public doesn't always see the value, this is an infrastructure improvement that not only the company benefits, but the surrounding community benefits. This is District 5, so I'll bring Brian up if he wants to add. And if you want the details of how the program's going to work, but this has been approved by a number of the other taxing bodies, and some of the other ones are in process, so.
And I'll just add to that, that if you haven't been over that way, I know you probably might have seen it, and Gretchen's gone now, but that would take the road all the way west to 47, which means then that trucks could go west onto 47 and get onto 88 rather than coming through the Village of Plainfield. There are a number of housing developments along that road as well, so those people would also have access to that new road, and Diageo would pay that bill.
And the other thing, before Brian speaks, there's also, this is part of a larger 143rd Street project, east and west, that we've partnered with Plainfield on. They're looking to make improvements to the east also, so Brian. Sure.
Thank you all very much for having me. I really do want to thank Nick and Jim and Mary for all of their work on helping us craft this agreement to come on forward to the board for consideration. Absolutely, we're absolutely thrilled by this project. It's a rather innovative, rather new approach, especially for us in Plainfield, in that we're not being asked to give a tax abatement, but rather use the additive tax value that's coming into our community to make a public improvement in the form of a new road. Diageo, the company that's building the project for Diageo is actually a company called Seafried, so I might interchange the two names just to understand that we're talking about the same one project. They're building a 1.5 million square foot industrial warehouse facility for their expansion of their operations, and Plainfield That will take their second largest operations globally to being the largest operations they have globally. We actually produce more alcohol out of Plainfield, Illinois than they produce out of St. James Gate in Dublin, Ireland. And so I kind of like to brag as an Irishman that we produce more alcohol than Dublin does. So anyhow, that's...
I find no fault.
Yeah, and it's in the form of vodka too, no less. Exactly right. So joking aside, so we're very excited about being able to call ourselves the largest operations that Diageo will have globally in the future. What we're looking to do on the with this agreement is to have Diageo and Seafried actually contribute $5 million directly toward the construction of the western extension of 143rd Street over to Ridge Road. The balance of that project is $7.5 million, which is the nexus of this agreement, in that they aren't asking for a tax abatement, but rather are using the increased valuation for those projects to go through. I think what I want to point out besides this being a relatively new concept here, and definitely new for Plainfield, as well as that we put some stopgap measures in so that the county is protected, as are the other taxing jurisdictions. The Village of Plainfield will take on any additive pressures that might come off of this. For example, if the project comes in greater than the $7.5 million that's expected, that's a burden by the Village of Plainfield. If the project comes in less than $7.5 million, your percentage share is reduced by whatever that project cost comes in. Likewise, if the property taxes don't generate what it's expected to generate to bring in those funds and it falls short of where we expect it to come in, again, that's a burden that the Village of Plainfield will take that risk on, and it's not passed on to the county or to any of our other taxing jurisdictions. And I do want to thank Nick in particular for making sure that that particular piece of language was in place. Not for my taxing jurisdiction, but rather for yours. So it's a rather good project, and we're very excited about it. The other part that Nick was getting at, and I do want to thank the county for your support, is for the 143rd Street East component, and that's a rather expensive piece that we've been working on since 1997. We have received some grant funds to go toward the construction of that project, and so our expectation is that within the next 4 years, we'll see both pieces of this road project completed and ultimately make a jurisdictional transfer so that that is the extension of Route 126. With that, I do have a benefit cost analysis within my collection of information. I'm happy to leave them here for you. Basically, it does show that by the totality of both sections of that road project, which is ultimately, it's about $75–80 million when you combine the east portion with the west portion. We're still looking at a benefit cost analysis of about a 2.29 factor. So for every dollar that gets invested in those road projects, we're seeing a $2.29 return on our investment. So just think about just that 7.5 million piece. It's a rather good investment, return on investment.
Very good. Thank you. Jackie, you had a question?
I'm actually becoming very familiar with Ridge Road these days on a personal basis. And I was going to ask you, is it north or south of Caton? But I found it, and I see where it dead ends here. So the idea is to have it come over and connect with Johnson Road?
Correct, exactly. Johnson Road, right.
All right, yeah, I've been up and down there. In fact, my first time I screwed up and went down Old Ridge Road and found I couldn't go anywhere. So, yeah, all right. That would really give people another alternative, because with all the railroad tracks that go up and down through there, and the traffic sometimes, and accidents, it's kind of nice to have another way to get around. One day there was an accident right there on Ridge, right at Johnson, and that was the day I got stuck with the Ridge Road, trying to find a way to get around, and they just had the road closed, and there was nowhere to go.
It's desperately needed.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
I have a question. You know, I think Nick did just kind of touch on it briefly, but, you know, especially over the last couple of years, a lot of discussion on commercial traffic, specifically truck traffic, intermingling with regular cars, and how it impacts residential areas. And it appears that, you know, this expansion in this project addresses some of that management of that commercial traffic. I mean, can you touch on, have you done traffic studies? Has Diageo done traffic studies showing how this will help manage that traffic in that area?
I did not set Mr. Mustis up to ask that question, but thank you for it. Yeah, actually, it does, the travel time savings by building this particular stretch of road actually reduces the area delays by 9 minutes per car.
Thank you.
In each route. So, and what that means is actually, in the very first year of operations, the reduced travel benefit, if you monetize that, is $895,000. By the time we get into full operations, it'll be closer to $1.5 million in reduced impact for idle traffic and time.
Just one other quick comment. The people who've been on the board know this. I have a copy of our freight study executive summary, and the Route 30 corridor is the one area up in the northwest part of the county that registered some traffic delays and some of those congestion issues that have been talked about. And having just driven through the Route 59, 126 kind of area yesterday, we saw trucks that were going south to catch 126. And when you get on 126/30, the only direction you can go is north. If this extension goes through, those trucks will instead just take 143rd over to 126, if you're familiar with it. So this has some relief for the whole area, and this is why we did this freight study, to look at problem areas like that and partner with our municipalities. So it is playing out per our study, so thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Braidwood for the radio communications tower. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I didn't expect to be on the agenda personally. Authorizing the county executive to execute the Area Agency on Aging Title III Older Americans Act.
Second.
Any, I thought it was for me. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Declaring various equipment surplus and authorizing disposal. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We have a replacement pre-posting for a financial analyst for Sunny Hill.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pre-posting for Food and Nutrition Services Manager for Sunny Hill. All in favor? Any opposed? Replacement hire for Records Management.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Replacement hire for the Transportation Road Maintainer.
Second.
I have a question, please.
Question?
You know, Jeff, these are for maintenance drivers, and have you had people leave, retire? I know.
This particular position, the person out there in 2 weeks is starting, so it's really that position.
I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't hear you.
This filling position, someone filled out 2 weeks after starting a couple months ago.
Got a better offer, did they?
Good pick.
More money?
Something like that.
Yeah, he is, okay. All right, you chased them off, Jeff? What would you do? Okay, thanks, Jeff.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We have replacement hires for the maintenance department. This is the in-house maintenance, it's not the transportation maintenance.
Second.
Question, Ray?
Yeah, one thing real quick on the maintenance worker on the printout, I think
It
the
says
start dates are
DOT,
wrong.
yeah,
I
it's
just
gonna
wanted
be
to make sure,
changed.
point that out.
Yeah. Okay. And it is actually the in-house, not DOT. Okay, it'll be changed when you get the
for the
final
board.
agenda for the board meeting. Okay, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? The next one I'm going to ask to be moved. I think we need some further discussion on that. That was authorizing the county executive to execute a contract with the supervisor of assessments. I think we certainly do need a formal contract with the supervisor of assessments. That is not an issue. What is an issue for me, and I would imagine some of the other board members, is the amounts stated. And so we want to have some further discussion about those amounts and where those fall in terms of other countywide employees, how that falls into line. So I'm asking to have that moved from the agenda.
Removed?
Thank you. All those, do you have a question?
Well, I was going to say is, so, personnel is pretty much handled at this committee. So, do you have a discussion in the executive session at committee level? Is that your intention?
Yes. Yes. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay. Authorizing the county executive, oh, I did that one already, sorry. We had just a couple of proclamations.
Check presentation to the problem-solving courts by Joliet Elks Lodge, and then that will be a presentation, and then proclamation read at the desk for Longest Night Homeless Memorial Day.
Okay, and that is tied into Morning Star Mission. Brooks is going to read that proclamation. Who's doing the check presentation?
Tyler will go down as judicial chair.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
Okay.
I don't know if it's time yet for a different, I'm assuming we're coming to the end. And I was reading, now I want to just say that, paraphrase it, just because it's good for another county doesn't mean it's necessarily good for our county. What they do is their deal and what we do is our deal. We're all different. But McHenry County, Illinois, worked out a deal with the federal government last year, and they made $10 million profit by doing an expansion to their jail system to hold ICE prisoners, illegal immigrants. And we have the River Valley Detention Center, which is almost empty. McHenry got $7 million for expansion. And I was thinking it might be a good idea for our Judicial Committee to look into it to see if it's feasible here. Like I said, just because it works there doesn't mean it works here. But $10 million for just a holding profit is a pretty good deal. So, it's up to you guys, but I would suggest that we look at that.
So you're asking to have that put onto the judicial agenda, Steve?
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. I think we'd all benefit if we get $10
And that would be for the January Judicial Committee meeting, or February. It would be, right, it would be February committee meeting, yes.
Before we do that, Steve, what I would like to see is we are now, we've had capacity at the Juvenile Detention Center for some time, but remember, it's juveniles there, so
right.
You can't just open that up for everything. But certainly we have additional capacity currently with the ADF. But what we don't know is, we don't know what the sheriff's arrangements are with federal authorities. He may hold federal people, he may hold folks there on behalf of the federal government now. It may not necessarily be for immigration, but certainly, I think we should hear from the sheriff first, if he's able to talk about their arrangements. And I don't mean you need to make comment now, Mike. I mean, you can if you want.
We have no arrangement with the feds.
At all.
The problem with how the feds is you don't get to pick their inmates. They send you the worst ones they have.
Yeah.
Trust me, at anybody, you don't get to pick the inmates that you want to house. They send you who they want to house. And it's always the worst of the worst. And RDJ, those officers down there are not qualified to watch federal inmates.
Yeah, and let me point
And I
out
would imagine it has nothing to do with their immigration status. It's about housing them until they can be picked up on extradition.
Right. So,
We do not house any feds.
so I think you should hear from the sheriff at that committee, and you can elaborate on that, Sheriff. And remember, the Juvenile Detention Center is under the jurisdiction of the courts. That's the chief judge. It's not the sheriff. And of course, they would have to probably give their views here. But here again, I want to make it clear that, is that we don't set policy for the sheriff's department, and we certainly don't set policy for the courts. That's the juvenile detention center. And before we start going down this road, if they're not interested, then, you know, or they have reasons they don't think it's a good idea, it kind of ends there. I want to make it clear, it's not up to the county board.
Yeah, I just brought it up. But, you know,
I understand.
I mean, I even said, just because it's good at one place, doesn't mean it's good somewhere else.
But before Denise,
Be our purview.
before Denise, Ms. Winfrey assigns it, you know, certainly there's nothing wrong with discussion. But understand, it's not under the preview of the county board. We can ask them to give a presentation if they have interest in doing something, but I don't want to necessarily take something on that we're not responsible for, or that we can't really affect. But certainly us getting information is a good idea.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that point, Denise.
Thank
you.
Okay, so we have appointments by the county executive. Judy?
I have a question on that. I noticed that this appointment is to be replacing Scott Lager. I'm not quite sure where Scott Lager lives, but I know that Bobby Peterson is already on that board, and she lives in, I think maybe Washington Township. Correct. She lives in Washington.
She lives over here.
Appointment, the recommendation was because of the size of the role areas. And I get that, but it says in order to provide broadly based and represented participation in deliberations, recommendation, PVC shall be appointed from among the residents and one member from each of the 5 geographical areas that constitute Suffolk County.
And no two members can come from the same township. That's what it says.
Number 35.
Bobby would be in Washington Township.
Okay.
No, you can't.
So,
If I have a person from Homer
Well,
let me just, before we get to that, let me just ask this. I understood that Bobby Peterson is ill and is not able to attend, is that correct?
I just spoke to you yesterday, her intention is to come back, but this is.
Is to come
replacing
back.
her, this is replacing Scott Lager.
Who is from Washington?
I don't know where she
No.
lives.
You can have
For the
two
zoning
people from the
commission, yes.
same.
You're saying names and I'm like,
Okay, we're at 35.
Denise, if I may.
It would be appropriate if she couldn't come back to replace
No.
then.
It clearly states, if you read it, and Mary, jump in, it says, so there's 5 districts, 7 members. Obviously, 2 of the
Somewhere
districts
there's
are going to
never
have 2
two
people.
people.
But it says, no more than 1 person from a township. So if Bob Howard and Bobby Peterson are both from Washington Township,
Okay.
Bob would be disqualified from being appointed. Mary?
That's correct.
Okay.
So his
So-
name can't go forward if they both live in Washington Township. I don't know where I don't know where they live.
Well, Bob and
Yeah.
Bobby both live in Washington.
Okay, well then his.
Okay, so assuming that Bobby comes back, Peterson, then that's true.
Well-
So, and we don't know that at this point.
Well,
Officially from
she's
her.
presently a member.
She's still on.
She's presently a member
Cannot
and has been
discount
absent for some time, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this then. Let's move that one
Just
to the
remove it
back
for now.
burner.
You gonna table it?
Yes.
Or are you gonna
I'm gonna ask-
Until we
and
get
send
some
it back
further
to the
information.
executive?
I would ask, I'll make a motion to remove it. That just gives you more time to go through it. I would make a motion to remove that appointment until the county executive forwards another one. Or forwards, re-enters that, or resubmits that, or enters another one. But it's clear they both can't come from Washington Township.
Okay, so there's a motion to remove? Second? Okay, all those in favor?
I do have one other
done.
question, Denise, about those districts, if I might. Have those districts, I probably should know this, but I just can't recall. Have they been changed at all over time? Have they always have those districts have always been made up of those townships? Or have they been moved around over time?
Dave's saying no.
Dave?
They have not been modified.
They have not been modified. Okay. When was the last time they were modified, David?
You know, I've been here almost 20 years, but I don't even recall them being modified.
They're dependent on
Okay,
population.
and you don't think they've been done since you've been here? I don't know if it makes sense to look at them again or not. I'm just throwing it out there that
Yeah.
it
Well, we may
might.
want to include that when we do,
Correct.
looking at everything based on census,
That's what I'm thinking.
because I'm
yeah.
thinking the population has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so, yeah, we need a motion then to approve as amended.
Motion.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Okay. Then, under the new business, we need to save a space. There's a resolution coming forward about the PBC, excess county funds. And just say a few words on that. Review is done of the budget there, determining what needs to be on hand and what doesn't. So the amount that's currently on hand there is quite a bit above what they have put forward as the necessary budget, so we want that difference to come back to the county. And that would go into the capital fund. And then at such time, if something, other project comes up or they need additional monies, we would send that over.
Need a motion to save it.
Anybody? So, in order to save the space,
Yeah.
Mark, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Okay, we didn't have any requests out for the state's attorney's opinion that I'm aware of, Mary, did we? No, okay. As for the committee reports, this time, since we've heard all the committees through this agenda, we're going to move those forward to December 20th unless someone has a question or a concern. Don?
When is the next capital meeting going to be?
It is
January 3rd.
3rd, yes.
Thursday or third?
Right, and it would be
After
prior to...
executive.
At what time?
After executive.
Oh, yeah, because we have the other
We have-
committee, yeah, so it'll be after executive.
Yes. Public Works is
Is
before.
before.
At 9, executive
After,
is
and capital
10,
will be after.
and then executive will be immediately following.
And just, yeah.
Capital will be immediately.
And just so the newer people understand, the Capital Improvements Committee is actually the paying agent for our projects, so they must always meet separately so that they can take care of the bills and move our projects forward. And that's why we're not hearing them initially as part of the executive committee. Okay. Okay. Public comments? Nobody. Good. Okay.
We need to set the county board agenda as.
Okay. So,
Oh, you have it here.
thank you. Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
I don't know, are we doing executive session today?
Did we need anything for executive?
You're not
No.
doing that for Rhonda's yet, not till
No,
next month.
no, not till next, no. We're not doing that. We haven't had a chance to have that discussion. Okay, so we have no need for an executive session today. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.